Mr. Chairman, we are streaming live on YouTube. You may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Yes, I'm not your chair. I'm staff. But we have an unusual situation. Our chair and vice chair are not with us this morning. And our bylaws account for this and provide a way for us to address it. So I want to make a recommendation that Chad Smith serves as chair for this meeting. He's certainly qualified because he's past chair. But we would like to entertain a motion from one of the members that Chad serves as the chair for this meeting, so we can elect him as chair.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Congratulations.
Okay, got that out of the way. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Metroplan Orlando, I'm Shad Smith, and I will be chairing this meeting today. This meeting is in person. It is important for all TSMO members to attend our meetings in person. So all committee members are asked to be present at the Metroplan Orlando boardroom for us to have a quorum. Members of the public will still be able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. There are 2 public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public attending in person who want to speak need to fill out a comment card and give it to Rachel. Those attending on Zoom who want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. We also accept comments by email and phone messages before the meeting. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Eric Hill, Metroplan Orlando staff, who's already talked to you, for agenda review.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman and members. First, I want to recognize some new folks in the room. We have several alternates with us this morning. Luann Ewan.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, she's online. Okay, she is representing UCF. Eric Porter is representing Central Florida Tourism Oversight District for Lee Polam, our vice chair. Ms. Nabil Muhaizam is representing the city of Orlando. I think we all know who Nabil is. Amy Martello for John Williams, city of Winter Garden, is here with us this morning. Tom Razi for Paul Yigan, city of Orlando, city of Oviedo, excuse me, thank you. And Brett Blackadar is a returning champion. I'm a Bill Maher fan. Representing Orange County for Brian Sanders, who is our chair. Also want to recognize some folks that received awards at the FDOT Safety Summit on May 17th. City of Castleberry, Dr. Brock. I've asked him to come to a future meeting and give a presentation on the work that they've done that earned the award. Laura Hardwick with the City of Orlando. She's not on our committee, but she is on TAC. She received an award as well. And then Orange County Sheriff Department received an award for the work they've done in safety. So we want to congratulate and recognize all those individuals and groups. The Vision Zero Safety Speaker Series. This is part of the work that we are doing. We did have this last week, and Charles Brown was a terrific presenter. For those that missed it, we do have the copy of the video if you want to watch it. And then we have 2 more coming up. So please look at your calendars, see if you can schedule these, because we do want to not only spread the word how important safety is, but we want to address that because that is a challenge that we have in our region. At the last meeting, we did ask you to fill out these yellow forms at your place. You did a terrific job, and that's why we're asking you to do it again. So if you could just complete it, either give it to me or leave it with Rachel or leave it over on the table. Also, at a past meeting, we talked about artificial intelligence in transportation. I like to call it augmented intelligence because that's what it should be doing. But we are going to have a workshop on August the 1st. It's going to be at the RTMC from 10 to 12. You'll get more information on this. I'd like now, Mr. Chairman, to turn it over to Mike Wilson for our safety moment.
Thank you, Eric, and good morning, everyone. As we head into June, we're going to look at Motorcycle Safety Month. And with every safety moment, look at kind of the big picture, and we have over 200 serious or fatal motorcycle crashes per year and nearly 50 fatalities. About 30%, as you might not be surprised, about 30% of motorcycle crashes are single vehicle, right? A little bit less stability there compared to 17% for cars and trucks. A common concern when it comes to motorcycles, because there's this small number of motorcyclists who are behaving egregiously, right? Whether it comes to speed or recklessness. And so I thought, well, let's look and see what the data really shows. What percentage of crashes involve speeding or aggressive driving. And when we look at motorcyclist crashes compared to auto and truck, they don't really differ all that much in that respect. Plus, when you look at the motorcycle column there, some of those could actually be a speeding or aggressive auto driver, because it's just that behavior is associated with the crash, not necessarily with that mode. So sometimes what we see that's notable is not necessarily indicative of the larger problems. But what we do see when we look at the crash types for motorcyclists, angle and left turn crashes, you've all seen the bumper stickers, look twice, save a life. And that's a real concern. It's because we have a tendency, if we quickly glance to the left, we can look right through a motorcyclist and not see them. So, for those of us who are not in a motorcycle getting ready to enter the roadway, really making sure that we really look, if we're looking toward an oncoming vehicle. And if we see a motorcyclist coming, spend a little more time looking, because we can often misjudge their speed because of their size and profile. What's maybe a little surprising is that rear end crashes account for another 20% nearly of motorcycle KSI crashes. And most of those are the motorcyclist rear-ending another vehicle. And this is because motorcycles actually require more stopping distance on average. A less skilled motorcyclist needs twice the braking distance. A more trained motorcyclist can stop as quickly as a car, but they need to keep that skill maintained in order to be able to do that. So for the motorcyclist, making sure that they've got extra following distance and being cognizant of that extra need for braking distance. So that's it for motorcycles. I also want to mention this is the onset of the 100 days of summer for safety, particularly focused on teen drivers. This is the time of year when the teens are out there on the summer roads, and so please communicate to your teams the crucial safety lessons that they need to make it through the summer. And that concludes my safety moment, and be happy to take any questions.
I actually have a question on the statistics for the rear ends that you mentioned. With those rear ends, is there then a higher percentage of those that have injuries and so forth, because there's more rear ends because they're less protected? I was kind of curious what the data showed.
Yeah, I didn't look at the percentage of rear ends that were KSI. I was just looking at KSI total.
Yeah, it was one of the things in our Vision Zero for our city, Longwood. We have a lot of motorcycle crashes, and I've never really realized that, a lot of KSIs that are motors. And so we've been kind of throwing around, well, okay, what can we do to make the motorcycles safer?
Sure. It would make sense that a greater proportion would be.
I would think so, but sometimes statistics don't show what you think.
And that's true generally of motorcycle crashes.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions or anything for Mike? Looks like none. Thank you, Mike, very much. Okay. Moving on. Next, we are moving on to agency reports. This is an opportunity for any of our partner agencies to speak to the committee. If any of our partners wish to provide updates during this slot, please let Rachel and Eric know via email at least a week prior to the TSMO meeting. Today, we have Amy Beckman for our regular report out from FDOT. Thank you, Amy.
Good morning, committee members. I'm here to give you just a few quick updates. First, I wanted to start with a quick update on our maintenance resurfacing projects. All emails have went out to those parties who have expressed interest in partnering with us in those projects. If you feel like you should have received an email and did not, or have any questions, please reach out to Celine Bounds in our district office. I'm happy to provide her contact information after the meeting if you need that. And then for today, I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. I have 4 very quick upcoming hearings that you may be interested in, just so that you can provide comments. So the first one is coming up on Tuesday, June 4th, excuse me, from 10 to 11:30. It is for project 441145, which is the South Orange Avenue project from Grant to Gore Street. It will be held at the Hampton Inn and Suites Orlando downtown by the Medical Center. There is free parking across the street at Orlando Health should you choose to attend. If you park at the hotel, I believe they may attempt to charge you. So we are encouraging people to park across the street if you are not able to walk or commute on bike. The next hearing that we have available then is for the project on South Orange Avenue as well from Magnolia to State Route 50. It's actually going to be a hybrid meeting. It is going to be taking place on June 6th. There is a virtual option which you need to pre-register for, as well as in person. You can go to the Mark Street Senior Recreation Complex at 99 East Marks Street in Orlando. The project team will be on hand and will be there to answer questions, as well as that looping presentation will be available. Thirdly, I have a public hearing for the State Route 535 Vineland Road project from US 192 to north of World Center Drive. That is going to be the traditional split days where one is virtual and one is in person. The virtual option will be Tuesday, June 18th from 5:30 to 7. You do need to pre-register, and this is a little bit different than others in the past where we are not going to have a looping presentation. That presentation will start online at 6 p.m. So you'll need to be in prior to that in order to view the presentation. On Thursday, June 20th will be the in-person option. Sorry, a little tongue tied this morning. And it will be held at the Embassy Suites, Lake Buena Vista at 4955 Kings Heath Road in Kissimmee, starting at 5:30 as well. And lastly, we have our Office of Safety is working with the Orlando Police Department on Tuesday, June 25th. This is the Hispanic Senior Safety Summit. For some of you who may have constituents who are a little bit older and only Spanish speaking, this is an annual event that the Orlando Police Department puts on to help them in their aging process with commuting, safety at home, and all of those things. So our safety department, our Office of Safety will be there as well, participating with the Orlando Police Department. And with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to hear them. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Amy? Doesn't appear so. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Now we will move on to item 5, which is roll call. Rachel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll ask all committee members to please leave microphones off until called. Barden.
Here.
Crandell for Barchessa.
Here.
Brock.
Here.
Carson.
Here.
Cologne.
Here.
Delachey.
Here.
Eid.
Present.
Elisar.
Present.
Elliot Moore. Gordon.
Here.
Hamayuni. Horn. Hewen. Jameson.
Here.
Drej.
Here.
Krug. Lim.
Here.
Price. Porter for Pullum.
Here.
Richmond. Blackadar for Sanders.
Present.
Senerans. Smith.
Present.
Mahyson for Tahira.
Present.
Wetzel.
Here.
Martello for Williams. Yeager.
Present.
Radzai for Yeargain.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Rachel. Now we're moving to the public comment period. We will now hear public comments on the action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized. Or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman, we have no hands raised online and we have no comments received in the room.
Excellent. Are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting? Eric?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So that we're moving forward to action items. We have 3 action items today. Members making or seconding a motion, please make sure you state your name. The first item, 7A, is approval of the April 26th, 2024 TSMO meeting minutes. So it's in tab 1 of your agenda packets. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve, Lazar.
Second.
Second, Price.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, comment? Doesn't appear to be. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay, thank you. Going to 7B. This is an FDOT amendment to the fiscal year 2024-2028 TIP. And information is provided in tab 2. We will hear from Mr. Jason Sorturio of Metro Plan Orlando, who will provide more information. Mr. Jason, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman and committee members. This morning, I have 3 tip amendments for you. And additional information on these amendments is located in tab 2 of your agendas. The first amendment will add construction funding in fiscal year 2025 for a resurfacing project on US 441 from Wadsworth Road to Lake County line. That is in Orange County. The second amendment will also add construction funding to add eastbound and westbound passing lanes on State Road 60 from Blanket Bay Slough to Peavine Trail. And the third amendment is a new project. It's a system-wide project on the Turnpike. And this amendment is for a PD&E study for Turnpike widening. And the study is from north of State Road 70, which is in St. Lucie County, to north of State Road 60, which is in Osceola County. As I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information on these amendments located in tab 2 of your agenda. With that being said, unless there are any questions, we're asking for your vote of approval. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion and a second?
So move.
Okay.
Moreheisen.
Second. Carson. Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. So this is a voice vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Jason. So, in 7C, we have asked to approve an amendment to the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Supplemental information is provided in tab 3. Ms. Taylor Laurent of Metropolitan Orlando will provide the details. Ms. Laurent.
Good morning, everyone. So as you said, these are proposed revisions to the 2045 MTP. This is a series of both modifications and amendments. And while those both technically have different processes and different definitions, we're going to take them through the exact same process as if they were all amendments today, just for consistency. So diving right in, the proposed revisions begin with updates to the Complete Streets project list. This includes taking several Complete Streets projects that have been growing in cost and complexity over the past few years and splitting them up into multiple phases to better match the planned implementation approaches for each of these individual projects. I've listed those up on the slide for quick reference, but the full limits of each of the proposed phases are included in your agenda packets under tab 3 for additional information. So with the separation of these projects into multiple phases, All of these phases are considered cost feasible because we have been keeping track and updating the project costs through our regular MTP amendments at the end of each year. So kind of seeing where that was growing, this is more of a administrative change, but technically still an amendment. Going into item 2, this is the North Street Phase 1 project in Seminole County from Raymond Avenue to Palm Springs Drive. They've decided to advance that project using local funds and be able to implement those changes sooner than would have been done through our standard funding process. So the proposed change here is to remove that project from our Complete Streets project list to Table 17, which is the Seminole County locally funded projects list. So with this change, there are no impacts to other project cost feasibility. Then item 3 is a little bit of touting for City of Orlando. They did receive a Safe Streets and Roads for All federal discretionary grant not too long ago. So we are incorporating that into our MTP by reference. And that's what you'll see on Table 13, which is our bicycle and pedestrian needs list. With this addition, there are no impacts to any project cost feasibility because that is a separate funding source. Item 4 is the addition of the Headwaters Trail from south of Nova Road to State Road 528. This is a request from Osceola County staff to add this project to Table 13, our bicycle and pedestrian needs list. To the very bottom of the list is an unfunded need because they are pursuing some other potential funding sources to be able to move forward with that trail. And they were looking for planning consistency to be able to unlock the opportunities for those other funding sources. So while that's being added to our list as an unfunded need in the 2045 MTP, that means there are no impacts to other project cost feasibility. Then item 5, you'll remember earlier this year, we made some revisions to some of our bicycle and pedestrian projects to specifically call out their potential eligibility for Sun Trail program funds. We're adding that description to one other trail that we missed in those prior edits. This is the St. Andrews Trail project in the city of Winter Park. So we're just changing that description to say that it's potentially eligible for that Sun Trail program funding. So with that minor administrative change, there are no impacts to project cost feasibility. Then our last 2 items going into Canoe Creek Road, there were some updated cost estimates to the 2 phases of this project within Osceola County. So we're proposing to update the Table 18, which is Osceola County's locally funded projects list for planning consistency with the efforts that they're proposing, as well as their phased implementation approach. And there was one request from the county to make a slight change to what you saw in the draft version that is on display for online purposes at the moment. Right now, you'll see that right-of-way, all of the costs are in planning period 1. The county has requested that to be revised. So a right-of-way shows in both the current TIP period, so our current 5-year expenditures, as well as in planning period 1. So splitting that cost evenly between those 2 planning periods. Again, for planning consistency when they plan to expend their funds for right-of-way acquisition. So this would just be an administrative change to show that for planning consistency, but there are no impacts to our project cost feasibility. And going into item 7, there were a few other minor changes requested for Osceola County locally funded projects. This includes revising the Kissimmee Park Road project limits to now extend to Cross Prairie Parkway. Removal of the Liberty Commons Boulevard project, again for planning consistency. That one's no longer consistent with the Osceola County Comprehensive Plan, so we don't want to show that in multiple places. And then the consolidation of the Neovation Way project. It was identified that it was listed under 2 different names, but showing the same limits. So we're removing a duplicate record from that list, again, for planning consistency and to make sure we're not overexpending any funds or showing that in our records. So with these 3 additional changes, there are no impacts to project cost feasibility. Again, all of those are Osceola County locally funded projects. So unless there are any questions this morning, we are asking for your recommendation of approval of the proposed revisions that they've been presented today.
Thank you, Ms. Laurent. Is there anyone who has any questions on any of these? Those are quite a few items, so. Kelly?
I just want to make sure, so on Winter Park Drive, you're still going to have the design phase as the entire corridor, and our intent is to break up design as well. So the current funds are being devoted to phase 1. That's the intent. So I don't know if something needs to changed to
That
reflect?
is something that would to be changed. So we
Okay.
currently have the design phase shown for the entirety.
Yeah,
of
we're
the
not attempting
segment.
to design it all at once, so,
Okay, I
Yeah.
will make that note.
okay.
And for everyone here, that would be a proposed change to the motion.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Any questions, comments? Well, still looking for a motion with that amendment as Mr. Brock, Dr. Brock. So we have that.
Motion to approve, LSR.
Second,
Second. Price.
okay, second price. So, excuse me. So this, I believe, is a voice vote, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Tim. So now we're going to move into presentations. We have 3 presentations today. So, and we will hold questions until the end of each presentation. So, the first presentation is a preview of the Transportation Improvement Program Annual Update. A link to the document is provided in your agendas. Mr. Jason Sorterio, Metropolitan Orlando staff, will share the presentation. Go ahead, Jason. Thank
Good
you.
morning again. This morning I'll be presenting on the fiscal year 2024-2025, the 2028-2029 TIP. And as mentioned in your agenda packets, you'll find a link to the draft document for your review. And the TIP will be coming back during the June-July cycle as an action item. The purpose of the TIP is to identify all federal and state funded transportation projects for the next 5 years. Within the TIP, we also include Central Florida Expressway projects and locally funded projects for informational purposes. And the TIP is updated on an annual basis. And the 5th year of funding is consisted with the adopted prioritized project list, which was adopted in July of 2023. Projects in the TIP are categorized into 11 sections, which are displayed on the screen. These 11 sections are the same 11 sections that are currently in the TIP now. And within these 11 sections, we have 513 projects. And over the course of the presentation, I'm going to highlight a few of these projects. I'll start with the National Highway System. This section of the TIP includes projects on the Interstate Highway System, Strategic Intermodal System, and National Highway Freight Network. For our region's purposes, most of these projects are on I-4. Within the TIP, we have 19 projects with $1.9 billion in funding. And a few projects we would like to highlight. First, we have one of the Moving Florida Forward projects that will be adding additional lanes in Osceola County from west of State Road 532 to east of County Road 522. Next, in Orange County, we have a project that will be adding lanes from east of State Road 522 to west of State Road 528. Also in Orange County, we have an interchange improvement project. That's a Darrell Carter and I-4. And finally, in Seminole County, we have a project that will be adding lanes on I-4 from 1 mile east of State Road 434 to east of US 1792. Next, we have the State Highway System of the TIP. This includes capacity improvements, complete streets, safety operations, and ITS investments on the State Highway System. Within the TIP, we have 68 projects with $844 million in funding. And a few projects we would like to highlight in the eastern part of Orange County, we have a project that will add lanes and rehab the pavement on State Road 50 from Chuliota Road to State Road 520. We also have in the Kissimmee area, we have an intersection improvement project at John Young Parkway and Pleasant Hill Road. In the Four Corners area of Osceola County, we have an intersection improvement project on Fooney Steed Road at the intersections of Linsfield Boulevard and Formosa Gardens Boulevard. And finally, we have a truck parking site in Osceola County. And next, we'll move on to complete streets. These projects consist of roadways, bicycles, and pedestrian intersection improvements that improve safety and accessibility for all users. Within the TIP, we have 12 Metro Plan Orlando funded projects with $45 million in funding. And a few projects we would like to highlight include in the Audubon Park, Baldwin Park area, we have Virginia Drive, Forest Drive, Corinne Drive, from State Road 527 to Bennett Road. In Apopka, we have Rock Springs Road from north of Publix entrance to Leicester Road. In the Kissimmee area, we have Buenaventura Boulevard from Simpson Road to Osceola Parkway. And in Castleberry, we have Winter Park Drive from Red Bug Lake Road to State Road 434. Next, we have the TSMO section. I'm assuming everyone in this room knows what TSMO is, but TSMO is projects that use innovative strategy or leverage existing technology deployments to improve safety and travel time reliability. Within the TIP, we have 16 Metro Plan Orlando funded projects with 37 million in funding. And a few projects we would like to highlight include Orlando citywide pedestrian safety, Orange County traffic signal cabinet upgrades, Carrier Drive, Mandarin Drive, TSMO bundle, and an arterial traffic management system on Boggy Creek Road from Simpson Road to Narcoossee Road. Next, we have the bicycle and pedestrian section of the TIP. This includes standalone bicycle and pedestrian improvement projects, including sidewalks and trails. Within the TIP, we have 25 MPO or Metro Plan Orlando funded projects, 52 million in funding. In Pine Hills, we have the Pine Hill Trail Phase 2 from Bonnie Brae Circle to Clarkona Ocoee Road. In the Baldwin Park, East Orlando, East Orange County section, we have Little Econ Trail Phase 3 from Baldwin Park Street to Richard Crowdy Parkway. And then we have several Shingle Creek trails. In Orange County, we have the Kirkman Trail section from Old Winter Garden Road to Raleigh Street. In Kissimmee, we have Phase 2B, which is the Yates Connector. Also in Kissimmee, we have the County Line Connector, which is Phase 2C. And finally, in Orange County, we have Phase 4, which is from Alhambra Drive to Old Winter Garden Road. Safe routes to school. This includes sidewalk projects within close proximity of the schools. Within the TIP, we have 3 projects, 1.1 million in funding. These 3 projects are Deerwood Elementary Phase 2 sidewalk gaps, which is in Kissimmee. In St. Cloud, we have Phase 1 of the Hickory Tree Elementary School sidewalks. And then in Kissimmee, we also have Phase 2 of the Boggy Creek Elementary and Parkway Middle School sidewalk gaps. Transit and commuter rail are 2 sections separate in the TIP. The transit and transportation disadvantage section of the TIP includes operations and capital funding for links. The TIP includes an approximate 453 million in funding. And the commuter rail section of the TIP includes Sunrail projects, and the TIP includes an approximate 657 million in funding. So as you can see, over the next 5 years, we have a lot of transportation projects going on within the region. We have a total of 280 federal, state, or turnpike funded projects with an approximate 5.4 billion in funding over the next 5 years. And this does not include projects provided by the Central Florida Expressway Authority, which is also investing billions into their roadways in our region. And this also does not include projects that were submitted by our local agency partners for the locally funded section of the TIP. And this pie chart breaks down the funding by category based on the TIP sections. So within the TIP, we also have a total of 59 projects being funded by Metro Plan Orlando, and that comes to approximately 185 million in funding. And the chart on the screen just breaks this down by category. So we have roads and highways, safety, bike ped, and transit. A few next steps. So over in the next few weeks, FDOT will be reviewing the draft of the TIP and will be providing comments. Also on June 18th, we have a TIP virtual public meeting. And then after all that is done, we'll be preparing the final document for adoption. As I mentioned, the TIP virtual public meeting is on June 18th. It's from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's virtual and it's on Zoom. And more information can be found on the metroplanorlando.gov website. And one last thing, we're always looking to make improvements and better visualize our TIP document. This year, we have removed our TIP GIS web map from our website, and we replaced it with this TIP online viewer, which is a new software. This online viewer more easily allows you to find projects displayed on the map, which is provided on the screen. So you can click on those lines and a window will pop up with all the project information displayed pretty much exactly how it's laid out within the TIP PDF document. On the bottom left-hand corner, you could also click on specific projects that are listed. You can filter by, project type, by section of the TIP, by specific funding. And also, so this is the interactive map slide page. There's also, if you look in the top right corner, if you were to click on the projects tab, that would give you the complete list of all 513 projects, just because not every single project has a line associated with the map. You could also, if you were looking back for a specific revision that we did previous month, you can use the plan revisions, and it'll have all of our amendments listed out. And if you were to click on it, it would tell you, what exactly was done with the project. And also on our new TIP online viewer, when you click on a project in the top right corner, it has a comment section. So for public comment purposes, you can comment on specific projects now. That will conclude my presentation of the 2024-2025 fiscal year 2028-29 TIP. I would like to open the floor for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Do we have any questions or comments from anyone?
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Jason, what is the funding status of most of these projects, specifically DOT projects at this point?
What specific, are you looking for a specific project?
Are they 100% funded at this point, 80%, 50%?
They are, everything within the TIP is fiscally constrained, so they are 100% funded. Now, as projects get closer to completion, once FDOT runs their final numbers, that's when we see the amendments pop up, when there's deltas between what the PD&E estimates were versus what the final construction numbers were. But everything within the TIP is fiscally constrained.
So would there be a chance of any of these projects get postponed because of the funding at this point?
So it matters what year. So as you know, projects are let, advertised, negotiated, that's typically when that discussion of a rescope, a deferral, a possible deletion may rise. So a lot of that is happening in kind of current or next year. So you'll see it in 25 and possibly in 26 if things are going to change. But a lot of that's just based on the evolution of the project, especially DOT, but also, our local government, all your LAP projects similar. There's a reason why we're asking for, every year we're coming back to you, asking you for cost increases, updating those intake applications, because we are seeing significant changes in unit costs, as well as we're seeing changes in scope as these projects evolve. They're loaded. These projects are often loaded without a design plan 5-7 years in advance, typically 5 years in advance. And as the project evolves, as you know more about the project, things typically rise. And that's where we're able to sometimes make adjustments within reason. Other times, as you saw in the MTP amendment earlier today, we've had to phase to kind of make do, deliver the projects with the finite funds that we have available to us, considering the economic conditions of the past couple of years.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions? Anything? Appears not. So thank you, Jason. We are now moving on to 8B, which is a preview of the fiscal year 2030 to 2040 prioritized project list. Our presenter is Mr. Slade Downs, Metropolitan Orlando staff, and he will provide the preview and the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Like you just said, I'll be walking you through the preview of our annual prioritized project list update. So a little background, the PPL is kind of a bridge between the MTP and the TIP. So where Jason kind of just talked about the next 5 years, the PPL covers the 10 years that follow that. It's kind of like the on-deck circle of what we imagine we'll be able to fund in the 10 years following the TIP. So the PPL is updated annually. This is just the preview to give you a chance to provide comment and feedback. And then we'll be coming back at the next committee cycle for the final and asking for adoption at that time. So the part of the approach and considerations of the planning process for the PPL is to keep it consistent with the MTP, where we've already established needs, cost feasibility, and cost forecasts. The PPL stays consistent with board direction on policy, performance-based process, and prioritization. And project eligibility is outlined within the PPL. You know, there's some funding buckets that have certain requirements. So some projects qualify, some don't. So all of that is outlined in the document itself. And the end goal of the plan is to advance high quality projects and project phases. So here is a list of the funding programs within the PPL. Each of these has a prioritized project list for that category, as well as a informational one sheet within the document to explain all the ins and outs of those programs. And I'll be giving a brief overview of that starting now. So first list we have to talk about is the Interstate Highways and Strategic Intermodal System. The one sheet for this program can be found on page 12 and the full list on page 25. Next, we have the State Roads and State Highway System. You can find the one sheet for this on page 13 and the full list on page 26. Next, we have our Off-System Constructions Assistance Program. You can find the one sheet on page 14 and the full list on page 32. Next, we have our Complete Streets Program. You can find the information for this on page 15 and the full list on page 33. Next, we have TSMO, where, again, I'm pretty sure you're all fairly familiar, but more information on page 17 and the full list on page 35. Next, we have our pedestrian, bicycle, and infrastructure projects. The information on that can be found on page 20 and the full list on page 38. Safe routes to school, you can find out more on page 21 and the full list on page 40. Of our critical sidewalk gap bundles on page 22. And you can find the full list of the broken out bundles on page 41. And our regional transit projects, to round out the lists, you can find out more on page 23 and the full list on page 50. So I know I kind of raced through all of those. That was kind of my intention, kind of hoping you guys can go in and take a look at that quick breeze through. Hopefully you didn't have a chance to read all of the information on those slides. So you can take a look at the plan itself and give us some good feedback. I know Dr. Brock has already given us some good information during Taylor's presentation. So we've got an edit in already. And if you could, please get that feedback into us by June 7th, you know, kind of as you're reading the document, kind of think, is this like a priority phase that we are prepared to undertake? Is this, you know, consistent with our commissions, our city council's priorities still? Have all of the departments that would be affected weighed in on the project and the ins and outs, that sort of thing? Yeah, so if you get the feedback to us by June 7th, that'll give us time to incorporate it into the final version, which we'll bring at the next committee cycle, and then the board will vote on it on July 10th. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Does anyone other than myself have questions? Okay, so I don't see any, so I'll go ahead. A few of the jurisdictions that are listed there for Longwood are not shown correctly.
Okay.
So you want me just to get with you to get that corrected? Or
Yeah.
I was wondering, were you trying to just show it as Seminole? but they're really not involved. It's just us. So I was assuming you wanted just the single municipality. if
Yeah.
The county's not active with it.
Got it, got it. Yeah, if you could shoot us an email.
Okay,
with
yeah, I
the
will.
specific.
I have some
project
other
names.
changes too, but those were the one I wasn't sure because the jurisdiction kind of bounces around on some of the things. So,
Sure.
um,
Yeah, that'd be perfect, so we can get that accurate and updated.
and just in general, I mean, I saw a lot of sidewalk projects in here. And I know what some of the numbers are right now for some of the sidewalk projects, especially LAP. They're ridiculously high from what they were a few years ago. And so I look at a lot of the numbers in here and they really look low. I mean, we have a project that's, I don't know, like 1,200 linear feet and it's $500,000 to do. So I see a lot of projects in here that are 30,000, 60,000, 100 for a really long stretch. They just look really low. So I don't know when that needs to get updated or if that's up to the local agency. I'm concerned when I see that because it seems like there's a lot more money that's really needed than what's apparent just if you just look at those numbers. So.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll speak to the cost estimates. So those are preliminary planning level cost estimates directly from the 2045 MTP. So if you want to see kind of what that per mile cost is, we agree things are always changing.
Yeah, they're
with that
a lot
piece.
higher.
So right now, everything that's shown there are the proposed costs for those individual segments for design. Not yet the construction, that would be the unfunded phase.
Okay.
For those shown in the PPL. But as each of those projects get closer and closer to when we would get them ready for the LAP program, Metro Plan Orlando staff are performing feasibility studies in cooperation with our local partners of whoever would be the champion and take those through the LAP program to make sure that those proposed segments are feasible and really line up the cost estimates appropriately before it moves into the LAP program.
Yeah, even on the design standpoint, I think some of them are low. So just because I know if they do survey, like 30,000, a couple of those wouldn't even get your survey done. So, yeah, so, okay,
Right,
that's
thank
very
you.
good, but just concerned. Yes, ma'am.
Like the TIP with the web-based GIS, is that available for the PPL?
We do not have a kind of an interactive map for the PPL projects.
Okay.
You can look at it
but-
with 2045. You can look at it on the 2045 MTP data layer in our data viewer online.
Okay.
Because all of the
data
projects
viewer.
shown here are shown in the data viewer itself. We
Okay.
can follow up. I'll send
Okay.
Eric a link directly to that with the layers that would be of interest to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Okay, any other questions, comments from anyone? Doesn't appear so. Well, thank you very much, Slade.
Thank you.
Moving on to 8C, our final presentation for the TSMO meeting is from Mr. Brian Homayuni. Still messed it up, so sorry. From CFX staff, he will be presenting on the State Road 516 Lake Orange Expressway project in Lake and Orange County. Thank you. All right.
On here, here we go. All right, good morning, fellow committee members. Thank you very much. Again, this is a 516 Lake Orange Expressway project presentation. Happy to be here with you today to talk about our project. So before we jump into the presentation slides, I do have a quick video I'd like to share with you from a groundbreaking event that was held last month.
It's an amazing day anytime we can create a new corridor in Central Florida, and 516 is going to serve as a vital connection between Lake and Orange County.
I really am hopeful that this roadway will set a standard for us to look and think outside the box of how we can incorporate a sense of place.
Success for the Florida Wildlife Corridor movement depends on these diverse partnerships. From agencies like CFX and county planners and developers and NGOs and passionate individuals like yourselves, if we're going to chart a path for Florida that we can be proud of for our future, we have to do these kinds of collaborations.
This new road is a pioneering example of how roads can be planned and designed sustainably with less impact on our ecosystems and with more applications of transportation technology.
So imagine never having to worry about where and when to charge your EV, which is what most of us do today if we own them, but instead just driving down the road that recharges as your vehicle moves.
Yeah, we're gonna learn so many things. As you know, when you put this in a test track, it's completely different to when you get it out in the real world. So we're gonna learn things like feedback from the drivers. We're gonna learn about the excitement that people have about the fact that this is not just a science experiment, that it's a real world deployment and that it actually works. And be able to pull data that comes both from the roadway and the cloud and show everybody that this is actually a sustainable, scalable solution.
You know, I'm excited about is the protection of the wildlife corridor. I'm also very excited about this new technology. And it, you know, it's just, I'm proud. I'm proud to be a part of this community because something so innovative, so cutting edge is starting right here in Central Florida. And I think we're thinking forward, we're thinking about the next generation.
So now you didn't see me in the video, but I promise you I was there. A lot of excitement and positive energy around the project. So jumping into the project details, State Route 516, it's an east-west connection between State Route 429 in Orange County, US 27 in Lake County. It's a project that's been studied for over 20 years now. The Lake Orange Expressway is a new 5-mile limited access expressway, and it was designed in 3 segments, 2 of those in Lake County, 1 in Orange County. Segment 1 extends from US 27 to Cook Road, and that was designed by HDR. Segment 2 extends from Cook Road to the Orange County line, and is being designed by BCC Engineering. And segment 3 continues east from the county line to State Road 429 and is being designed by DRMP. In the spirit of the Wellness Way area plan, our board member, Commissioner Sean Parks, challenged the staff to think big and incorporate sustainability elements during the design phase of the State Route 516 project. Really, to meet that challenge, as you can see here, we've incorporated a number of key elements. So first, we've coordinated extensively with the Florida Wildlife Corridor Foundation, FDOT, and Lake Louisa State Park to site a wildlife crossing under US 27. The proposed crossing will open a critical connection through the constrained area of the Florida Wildlife Corridor, northwesterly toward the Green Swamp and the Ocala National Forest. Project also includes the installation of solar arrays throughout the corridor with the intent of offsetting 100% of our power consumption from our lighting, our toll systems, and our ITS systems that we're going to be deploying on the 516 corridor. We're also partnering with Lake County to include a co-located public trail, which extends approximately 3 miles from US 27 to County Road 455. And then following construction, we're going to be landscaping the trail and roadway, which will include drought tolerant native plantings with a heavy focus on pollinators. And as a part of the overall project, we are pursuing a platinum level Envision certification. So to achieve a certification from the Envision is similar to achieving a platinum level LEED certification on a building project. And finally, we of course have also partnered with Aspire to incorporate the dynamic wireless power transfer pilot study on section 1 of the corridor. So if you combine all these elements together, really results in State Route 516 being the most sustainable project provided by CFX. Did I miss a slide? All right, so yeah, here we are. So we're here, let's just jump into the dynamic wireless charging. The next few slides will focus on this technology here. And this section of roadway, which will include this again, is segment 1. It's going to be approximately a 1/2 mile to 3/4 mile section of road, 1 lane in the westbound direction, starting around Cook Road. Here we are. So the pilot team, key partner for the initiative is Aspire. Aspire is a National Science Foundation Engineering Research Center. Aspire stands for Advancing Sustainability Through Powered Infrastructure for Roadway Electrification. Aspire has set a goal to progress the field of sustainable and electrified transportation in all its forms to the point where people everywhere can benefit from transportation innovations without ever having to think about where or how their charging is happening. Aspire has 400 collaborators from 10 partner universities and dozens of disciplines. They integrate academia, scientific research, and real-world applications, working in sync with over 60 industry, government, and nonprofit members across all sections of the electric transportation ecosystem. So we've also engaged with NREX as a technology provider for the wireless charging system. NREX is a global green tech based in Norway, and they're going to deliver that technology solution on our roads. They have active projects in both Belgium and Germany using wireless charging technologies. So jumping into the technology employed for the roadway is we're actually going to be using the laws of electromagnetic induction for this application. So basically a current is going to be sent through coils located in the pavement, which will create an electromagnetic field. A receiving pad is going to be required on the vehicle in order to actually generate charge to the electric vehicle. So the system is going to be dynamic in nature, and it will create the appropriate level of charge for the size vehicle. So smaller vehicles can receive a 50 kilowatt charge, and larger truck traffic can receive a 200 kilowatt charge. The technology in the roadway will communicate with the technology in the vehicle in order to deliver the charge at highway speeds, and that is a key component of the project. So the CFX design team has been working with engineers and scientists at NREX and Aspire for the past year and a half to identify and develop the construction means for incorporating the charging system into the constructed roadway. In September, CFX hosted a team of international engineers and scientists at our headquarters building to review the first prototype of the precast concrete panels that will ultimately house the technical components of the wireless charging system within the roadway. Team members attended from as far as Germany and Poland to review the concrete precast panel prototype. So really, why is this test important? Well, I guess literally and quite figuratively, we're laying the groundwork for this new innovative technology, right? And so standardization is a key and important part. So international standards must be developed to inform utility providers and auto manufacturers on how to move forward with technology decisions in their respective businesses. Pilot studies such as ours are critical to developing such standards, and if successful, will ultimately lead to the widespread implementation of in-road dynamic wireless charging. So taking a step back, looking at the concrete form, it was important to establish that the precast panel could be fabricated locally using conventional construction methods and materials while retaining the detail and tolerances established in the design. So NREX shipped samples of their technology elements to be placed in the panels ahead of the meeting at CFX. And then when the team convened in September, we had 2 sections of the precast concrete panel prototypes on site. Each of the panels is 11 feet long, 3.5 feet wide, and weighed more than 5,000 pounds. The technology elements shipped from Poland were laid out and installed within the panels to check the constructability and the fit, and everything fit better than expected. So the test went very well back in September. All right, and to wrap things up, I just wanted to provide a glimpse at the schedule and delivery for the 516 construction projects. So for start, segment 3, which is the Orange County projects, was awarded for construction already. And that's where we held the groundbreaking event in April. Segments 1 and 2 are planned to be advertised for construction bids in 2025. And if all goes according to plan, we anticipate completion of all 3 segments and the opening of 516 to traffic in 2028. And that's all I have, but happy to answer any questions.
Excellent presentation. We'll go ahead with questions. Charlie.
So just curious, so you said the charging lane is like a half mile to 3/4 of a mile?
That's right.
So what, is there an estimate of, is it like a full charge for a vehicle or partial, any idea?
No, yeah, so there is an idea, yeah. I mean, so in general, what we're targeting is that the charge should be able to get the vehicle through that corridor without losing any battery power, and then give it enough to basically double that length. So it's not intended on like you go over the location, you're fully charged. This is more of a prototype application where really for setting the standards, right, for future use. For this type of like technology to be helpful and useful, it needs to be implemented in longer segments and sections of roadway. So there's a test track. Just keep talking here. There's a test track out in Utah, right, where they have actual buses that have the charging capability, and they can run perpetually around those tracks. But again, there's a good segment of that track that has the charging infrastructure. That gives an idea. Handsome?
Representation.
Thanks.
Will needed corridor that will serve that rapidly growing area, West Orange County and Lake County. My question is there going to be a consideration for a future connection between 516 and 528? There's a gap there. 528 ends at I-4, and there's nothing. There's no limited access highways in that area at all.
You know, that's a good question. I'm trying to visualize our 2045 master plan in my mind, and I do not recall seeing a segment there, but I'd have to reference back to that 2045 master plan to see where that, if a future corridor is being considered in there. I don't believe so, but I would suggest checking that.
Yes. Oh. That's right.
I have a couple questions. Since it's very much being promoted for the EV, what's the cost percentage of the overall project just for that part?
It's actually, I mean, when you consider roadway construction, it's a relatively small cost percentage of creating a new road. I mean, you know, less than 1% probably, but you know, that being said, we're doing a small section of road and corridor, right? So, and the cost right now is probably significantly higher than it would be if this is something to be standardized or used nationwide. So, you know, we do have some cost data, right? But it's take it with a grain of salt. For where we're at right now, the costs are high. We're still in a research development type of phase. These are early days, but it's not cheap, but right. But when you look at it globally, or even in a bigger picture context, right? When you look at it in the trucking industry, for instance, right? We spend trillions of dollars in trucking right now, and in oil and fuel costs, right? If you could divert, right? I mean, it's pie in the sky, but right, you divert some of those expenses into infrastructure improvements, right? That can help support the trucking industry, lower the need for the size of batteries in trucks, because right now it's cost prohibitive. The amount of battery you would need to put in a semi-truck to get from coast to coast is cost prohibitive. It takes 25% of the load. It just doesn't make sense right now. But if you can cut that down by a significant percentage with something like this, it really starts to change the game in terms of that economic standpoint. And then, right, you allow the rest of us to benefit from that same infrastructure, right? So anybody can get on the road, drive, not think about it. That range anxiety starts to disappear. It opens up the possibility for a real exponential growth in the electric vehicle market.
Does the vehicles have to have any type of retro to pick up that charge?
Yeah, again, right now we are at the point where there's a receiving pad that's required on that vehicle. So, you know, if you go buy a Tesla and go drive out there, you're not going to pick up any kind of charge. It's not going to do anything. So right now there's a receiving pad. That receiving pad is going to communicate to the infrastructure on the road. That's what generates the current, the electromagnetic field. And that vehicle will be able to pick up the current. So if anyone else driving over there, it's just going to be like a normal concrete road. No, there's not going to be anything happening.
Can the average person just go have that pad added?
Right now, no. This is again part of that developmental right stage. So the idea is we start to establish right the standards and the procedures. If it gets more widespread adoption, this is something where we can start coordinating with auto manufacturers. And by we, I mean folks like Aspire, right? That can start coordinating with auto manufacturers to say, here's the standard of this receiving pad. You know, if you put this in here, you're going to be able to charge here, here, and here. It's, you know, it's going to require a lot more widespread adoption to really be of use to the general public, right? So right now we're in the really early stages of the development. And the short answer is you need that receiving pad and you can't just go by it.
Thank you very much. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, I know you can't speak for FDOT, but is this like one of a kind project in the state, or has there been other pilot projects similar?
To my knowledge, in the state, this is going to be the first. However, I have heard that the Turnpike is looking at similar technologies, and I also know that, you know, other states are looking at deploying similar technologies in really test bed pilot sort of implementation.
So there's not any sort of a coordination platform at this point? Coordination between
really,
different
I think
agencies?
Aspire is managing that part of it, right? So in terms of coordinating, like they've got such a wide sort of ecosystem that they're dealing with right now, dealing with other universities and agencies. I think they've engaged 10 different state DOTs. So really, that's the coordination platform. You know, that's where a lot of the intelligence is being housed, and hopefully continue to
Okay.
share.
Great. Yeah, very informative. Does this system require vehicles to be moving for it to be
So
charged?
this system, yeah, actually I failed to mention maybe in the presentation, but this is a dynamic charging for highway speed. So the intent on this one is that, you know, you're going 70 miles an hour and you can receive the charge. That's just how our system is being designed. There are, right now, you can go online and search, you know, wireless charging pads, and you can go buy one to stick in your garage where you drive up and there's a wireless charge where I don't believe you need that receiving pad, right? So the technology is there, available.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else over here?
Two quick questions. Maintenance. So when would you go to resurface the road? Do we have to replace all of that you're putting in, or is that thought that will stay with limited maintenance?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And that's one of the things we have been certainly thinking through as a part of the design process. And so that's partly why we're putting it in, right, concrete pavement. So we got the concrete forms and there's gonna be concrete over it. And so the idea there is that we wouldn't have to do that cycle of milling and resurfacing, and it wouldn't impact the coils. We would not want to or anticipate wanting to replace the coils in the roadway. So, and talking to NREX as the technology provider, they've had systems in place for 10, 15 years that have not required any maintenance. So, you know, the idea is, right, low maintenance for any infrastructure in the ground. Now, cabinet level stuff, you know, we live in the lightning capital of the world. Obviously, we're not delusional to the point where we think there's going to be no maintenance on that, but you know, that's part of the deal.
The other question, and this may be too far down the road. At this corridor, you have the solar arrays and in-ground arrays that will help offset the electricity costs for that. Are there thoughts that there is going to be additional charging or costs for you to use your EV on this roadway, and how would that cost be?
Yeah, you're starting to talk over my pace. Yeah, so I know there have been discussions about like, okay, how do we act as a utility, and is this something that can? But yeah, those are high level discussions that I'm not sitting in the room for. So none that I'm aware of right now.
Excellent presentation. I appreciate it. I don't see any more hands. I had a similar question to Lenny. I was just wondering if it was fully concrete all the way through, and it sounds like it is. What about weather conditions? What kind of, sounds like some of the places that they've installed, there's even snow and ice probably. So, I mean, we have more lightning and rain. So I was kind of wondering.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good question. And that's honestly part of the questions we're trying to answer with the part of this pilot, you know, so they do have some of the other deployments, or I think maybe Michigan, I should probably know this, but Utah. So, right, they have different weather, very, you know, and so part of what they're trying to see is, okay, now we're in Florida with different conditions. How is this kind of installation going to work in our climate? And so that is a part of sort of what we're trying to learn. And then, you know, as they evaluate this and other pilot deployments throughout the nation, they'll help answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Doesn't look like it. So thank you very much for a great presentation. This is seems like a perfect TSMO type of presentation application. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Moving on, we have the common presentations today. We have two common presentations that are with the TAC meeting. For those who are available, we encourage you to stay for the TAC meeting to view the presentations. The two common presentations are the Vision Zero update, which hopefully everybody gets, and then the 2050 MTP status update for that study. So there are lots of general information items under tab 4 in your agenda packets. A few items of interest, I think Eric mentioned earlier, is the Vision Zero Speaker Safety Series. The next presentation is on June 4th, and then there's one on June 13th. So just remind everybody of those. Also in there was the NHTSA finalized the automatic emergency braking on all passenger and light cars or light vehicles, trucks by 2029. I thought that was a big, I thought some of that was already standard, and I recently learned it's not. The automatic braking, a lot of manufacturers are doing it, but some aren't. So until this, so hopefully this will move this along, and hopefully it'll help our goal toward Vision Zero even more with that automatic braking, especially for pedestrians. So I just thought that was very interesting and good to see that that's moving forward. So there is a list of upcoming meetings in your agenda packet too. Some notable meetings are the Metro Plan Orlando board meeting will be on June 12th. And the next TSMO meeting will be on June 28th at our normal 8:30 time. Also, is there any time for member comments? Are there any committee members who have final comments or want to comment on progress of anything? This is the time to share those.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add, we had a question asked online regarding Brian's presentation.
Oh, okay, please.
Which was, is half a mile enough to demonstrate that the charging system works? You can...
We believe so. Yeah, it'll show that the charge itself, and so part of the benefit of having the receiving pad, right, as a component of the system, is we're going to be able to have access to data from every car that uses the system, right? And so we're going to have direct access to that, and the half mile should be sufficient to gather that data and show what kind of charge is being accepted by vehicle types, different vehicle types.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And it doesn't look like I see any other comments from anyone in the committee. So this is, we have our final public comment opportunity. If there are any members of the public who wish to comment, please use the raise hands function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll mute your mic. After you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comment to 2 minutes or less. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman, we have no hands raised and no comments received in the room.
Great, thank you. Okay, you answer that. Are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry. That is the end of our second public comment period. And if there's nothing else, then we,
Mr. Chairman.
oh, there we go. We have somebody else.
I just want to thank you for lacing them up one more time and leading this august committee. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. That is it. We're adjourned.
Yeah.